Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Hill. With me, as always, is Austin Waiter, and we're back talking the latest college football action from Rivalry Week. Talk about that college football playoff and what it sets up for a huge conference championship weekend. And while a lot of our stunners and shockers kind of got left in the wind, we still had some interesting things happen and
Yeah.
unfold and leave us in kind of an interesting predicament over the next couple of weeks for some of these schools. Um, and let's just kick it off with a team that's going to be at the forefront of our discussion and a conference that's at the forefront of our discussion here this week. In a huge game in the ACC, number 12 Miami took on number 22 Pittsburgh. Winner has a chance to go to the ACC championship. Miami saw their opportunity, knew this was their last chance to make impressions on the college football playoff, make their chance at the ACC crown here, and they win 38-7 over a Pittsburgh team that has just been so up and down over the last few weeks. We talk about it with getting kind of flattened by Notre Dame, then really putting their best foot forward against Georgia Tech last week, and then this week again, just kind of flat out embarrassed by the Miami Hurricanes. And look, this was a big win. Winner had a chance to go to the ACC championship, and Miami took full advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. They got off to a bit of a slow start, but then they handled business. How do you do that? Throwing the ball to Malachi Tony. I hear he's a decent wide receiver to get the ball to. Yeah, Carson Beck got the ball to him. They got in rhythm, and the offense looked fine. And not only was this big for the ACC, obviously Miami's at large hopes because let's remember Notre Dame, Pittsburgh literally played each other, and I think Notre Dame won by I don't remember the official amount. So, but they won by a good margin. So Miami had to come out and handle business because if they didn't, there's another reason the committee would go like, yeah, see, that's why we don't have Miami ranked ahead of Notre Dame. And Miami came out and handled business. And when we get to these rankings, we'll talk about it. There's at least a decent shot at quite a conversation to be had, depending on some things that happened this weekend in conference championships.
Yeah, we're gonna have an interesting conversation. Obviously, we've got opinions. Some of us have some thoughts about what may have happened last night in the college football playoff rankings. And unfortunately, I know exactly what it spells. That's the worst part. And we'll
Yeah.
break that down here in just a minute when we talk about it. But then we go to the big game, Ohio State, Michigan, the clash. We both expected Michigan to come out and roll again in this game. But Ryan Day, has he figured it out after winning that national championship, a 27-9 victory? And it's just been kind of the memo really for this Ohio State team. Come out here, play some good defense, and now the offense is finally catching on. Julian saying, look, I'm not going to come out here and discredit the guy when I say this. I haven't been huge on the Heisman talk for him necessarily, but he has had a really good season. I don't say that to say this is a bad player and he shouldn't be in the conversation. That's not what I mean. I just don't know if he's had this was a big game. And certainly if he was in the Heisman conversation before, I think he's made an even better case now. But I just don't know that a season as a whole, especially you look at the week one performance, and not that week one should determine your entire season, but there have been games this season where it's been, he was finding his footing. He's first year starter. So I think, maybe put him in the conversation for what he could do next year. I'd be really excited to see what he can do next year. But he's a talented quarterback. He goes out and makes a huge case for himself for those maybe throwing him in that Heisman conversation. And the offense, again, I think this was maybe really the best performance by this offense all year. I think in the biggest game, biggest opportunity, a game, had some bad luck in, this was a time to have a great offensive showing.
It really was. And talking about the game, I mean, just historic for many reasons. Number one, I learned this stat, Austin. I thought it was kind of funny. Since 2001, the team that has rushed for the more yards in the game between the two teams has won every single year since 2001, which I thought was kind of a wild stat to learn. So I remember hearing them say that at kickoff. So I'm like, all right, this is Michigan's to lose. They're going to come out, they're going to run the football well. No, Ohio State defense had another plan, and Ohio State was able to run the ball nearly 100 yards more in this game. And honestly, I'll go ahead and add in with Julian saying in them. Quarterback play was the difference in this game. Julian saying had the interception early in the game, and after the Michigan field goal, they threw the interception. I think we all looked at each other and said, "Oh, here we go again." Here we go again. But the thing that stuck out to me from early on after that interception was Michigan gets into the red zone, but they have to settle for three again. So that mindset never has to change into sprinting mode because we're down 10-0 already in a game. But 6-0, still one possession. And Julian Saint came out, played efficient football, made some deep throws down the field, played well off of play action. I thought he played well. They were able to run the ball with success and handle business. Bryce Underwood, I think maybe in a year or two, he'll be a really good quarterback. But as far as this game, I am not gonna just beat around the bush here. He was terrible in this game. He felt
Agreed.
frantic the entire time. It felt like he was running. If he didn't get rid of the ball right away to the open guy, then I was like, "What are you doing? Get rid of it." He's wide open for the check down. You can hear Joel Klatt say it during the game. He's like, "I just want him to be more patient. 'Cause if he's more patient, this is there." And he felt like he was frantic the whole game and just trying to get rid of the football as quick as he could. And that ultimately hurt them. And let's give this Ohio State defense some credit, Austin. Such a historic year for them. They are the first team to hold 12 opponents under 17 or less points since Florida in 1975. I mean, that's about as historic of a defense as you can have. And I am not a Matt Patricia fan. Never have been, never will be. But the job he's done this year with this is undeniably awesome for them and has made it where we haven't even had to see Ohio State's offense be an elite group to win games. Like it's just, okay, as long as we score more than 17 points, we're going to be fine. And that makes it dangerous for teams going against them in the playoff because we haven't even seen, dare I say, a fully elite Ohio State team. And I don't even think we've seen their best game yet. And that's saying something because they played a heck of a game on Saturday in the Big House, getting the win on the road there.
Yeah. It was an absolute great performance and a great win. Then another game we'll talk about here. Vandy versus Tennessee. This was a huge win and a huge performance by Diego Pavia. Look, the Pavia Heisman talk from guys like us truly here. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we loved this performance. And again, another guy that makes a big case. And look, with the way some of these games were going at the time, of course, they didn't end up finishing the way we wanted.
Right.
But this was nearly a college football playoff push for Vandy. Certainly putting themselves in the conversation if the committee wants to get crazy after conference championships. And had they wanted to get crazy last night, because man, they took a big swing, and we'll
Yes, they
talk about
did.
it just a minute here, but not really feel like highlighting these games entirely. But LSU had Oklahoma and Washington had Oregon. Both those squads were on the ropes at
Ooh,
some
yes, they
point in those
were.
games. Of course, both squads figured it out and ended up getting the win. But those were two games, and then a game we'll talk about a little bit later, where had some things happened, you could say, hey, you want this SEC? Obviously, Oklahoma's going to fall out, or obviously Oregon's going to fall out after a loss like that. Now here's Vandy's chance, and they were this close. Man, uh, this was a great performance, and I had nothing against Oklahoma, nothing against Oregon, but I was rooting for
Right, right.
Washington LSU to pull it out to maybe see Vandy sneak in and have an opportunity.
Yeah, if there is one thing we are, ladies and gentlemen, the Bold Take Podcasts are agents of chaos. Okay, we're built for
Yes.
this stuff. I don't think y'all understand. We want this stuff to happen. Whenever we talk about the ACC championship, you're going to know exactly what we mean when we're agents of chaos here. But as far as it goes for this game, I mean, great first half, back and forth. That second half, though, I mean, Vandy just with the beat down and beat them down and hit them down. I mean, it was most impressive, and that's saying something for Vandy. Like the win against Alabama last year was awesome. The win against LSU this year was awesome. This probably, at least in my opinion, might be the best game they've played in the last 2 years because of the way they went into Knoxville. No one was all on the line there. Big rivalry game, and they just came out and dominated them in this game. And Diego Pavia, despite the two interceptions, ran like crazy. Again, I was chanting, "Go, Diego, go." And I shout out the old TV show for those of y'all who
Yes.
know that
And
reference there would Go Diego Go. But
we're
they were
old.
able to get the win. And it's so weird that we're sitting here and looking at a 10-2 SEC team and we're saying, wow, they're really not getting in this playoff. Because it felt like last year was like, okay, like last year whenever the 12 team started, we're like, there's no way a 10-2 SEC team gets left out of a 12 team playoff. And yeah, here we are today. But a big win for them to end the season. Double digit wins for Vandy, ladies and gentlemen. And with the signing they made yesterday, I don't even think they're close to done.
Yeah, I know. Clark Lee has this team in a very interesting position over the next few years. But let's talk about the Iron Bowl.
Ooh, yeah.
Alabama wins 27-20. And I'm going to say this much. Ashton Daniels, he needs to be investigated. I'm
Yeah.
going to say that first half was sad. Missing wide open receivers, receivers dropping balls because they didn't expect them to be thrown right in their hands. Ashton Daniels may have taken money from the University of Alabama. I'm gonna go on record and say it. The fact that Deuce Knight did not come back into this game, I was furious. I could not believe it. And somehow the Auburn Tigers were in this game till the very end. I'm gonna say it. For a rivalry game like the Iron Bowl, where Auburn and Alabama always play each other close, Auburn did not want to win this game. They played like a
Mm.
team that did not want to win this game. The countless, it was just, it felt like freshman mistakes being made all around. And look, I don't expect you to just come out here and floor this Alabama team, but the way they held so close in this game just to make like the simplest mistakes, it was beyond me. I think it was a great effort by the Auburn Tigers, but I just think like, and I said it to you when it happened, when you messaged me. They played like a team that did not want to win the game. They hung around, they kept it close, but when they had their opportunities, they did not take them. And I was just a little disappointed. And I know that's crazy to say. This was a 5-6 Auburn team
Right,
that was
right.
projected to get blown out in this game. But I was disappointed because they had a lot of opportunities they did not take advantage of. That I think they're a plenty capable team. Ashton Daniels, plenty capable quarterback. And if he's not capable to make those plays, then Deuce Knight was. And I'm disappointed in the coaching staff for not having the guts to make the change.
Well, I will say this, if you would have told me in this game at any point, Bama's up by 17, I'm like, all right, let's wrap this thing up. This thing's done. I mean, I said that whenever they score, I'm like, this Auburn offense with the way it's going. I mean, and like I said, it was a group effort. Ashton Daniels was having issues with some passes, but receivers weren't helping him out even whenever he was throwing them on the money. This was everyone struggling in that first half. And I was like, good Lord, guys, can y'all just do something to make this game? Because listen, as much as we love rivalry week, this week had kind of been a bit of a snoozer. So we're like, come on, just give us a good game, please. And then it's almost like they heard our prayers at halftime and are like, all right, let's lock in. And they came out, scored a touchdown very quickly, and made this a ball game very early in the third quarter with a touchdown. I will say, as bad as the first half was for Ashton Daniels, he played his heart out in that second half. I thought he played
I
his heart
agree,
out.
but that's
Yeah.
what I said. I think he took money in the first half. I was just disappointed in that first half
Yeah.
performance.
He had first
Uh,
half money line, if you know what I mean. He had
yeah,
Alabama first half money line.
I'm just saying I need an investigation. Check his DMs, check his text messages, see if he's got a burner. I need to know the communications between him and Kalen DeBoer because I think they're a little suspect.
Yeah, I
But
think
look,
so. Yeah.
in our nightcap, look, we talked about it. ACC was the big conversation, and all these crazy chaos scenarios can happen. But we would not find out until 6 and 7 o'clock that night when the two teams who all they had to do was win could win. Virginia, they get the job done pretty easily against Virginia Tech. But boy, oh boy, you can count on the Golden Bears to make it a game. They play SMU close and they take it 38-35. SMU falls to California out of because of everything else that happened. They're out of the ACC championship. And look, I didn't want to go back through all the tiebreakers I had looked at all day. We had talked about last week. I was like, I'm just going to find out when the ACC announces who plays Virginia in the ACC
And
championship. And then I
there it is.
got the message from you that it was the Duke Blue Devils. And look, Georgia Tech was who I was hoping for, but
Yeah.
I knew it was kind of a long shot after everything that had happened last week. But what I was really hoping for was not Miami. And when I heard Duke Blue Devils, I knew we are in for some fun come this Saturday and the chaos that might happen. I am happy to hear it. But look,
Yeah.
this was a great game. And the crazy part is, like, both of these teams just played really, really well. And Cal just ended up being the better team.
Yeah, I was gonna finish my point. I don't think I want to add more about that Iron Bowl with Alabama. That was a gutsy fourth down play call by Kalen DeBoer, and then when that score was 20 to
Yeah,
20 and the score of that
agreed.
touchdown, I was like, if they don't get this, oh boy, things are gonna be turning there. But they had a great job persevering there. Yeah, and I'll give Virginia credit for it because even though I picked them to win and I thought they would beat Virginia Tech, there was that thought in the back of my head of like, Virginia's played really close against some bad teams. Like, this
Yeah,
is a rivalry game. Like, what are we going to do? Just Virginia Tech just comes in there and stuns them. But they handle business. And yeah, I'm watching Alabama Auburn just like everyone else. And I'm just constantly checking my phone here because I was on Twitter the whole time. They're like, if Cal beats SMU, Duke's going to the ACC championship. Immediately put money line on Cal the second I heard that. The second I heard that, I was like, okay, hear this. $5 Cal money line. All right, we're good. Um, and the way it started, I was watching it. I was watching the Iron Bowl and kept on checking scores. Like, okay, set 10-7 Cal, 17, 20, 24-7 Cal. What is going on? And it just felt like SMU just crapped the bed in the biggest moment, is what it felt like at that moment. Then they make it 31-14. You're like, wow, I mean, I can't believe SMU's going to go out this poorly, go out in embarrassing fashion knowing what was on the line. And then
yeah.
again, as I'm watching Iron Bowl, it goes 31-21, 31-28. All of a sudden, you look up, it's 35-31 SMU. 2 minutes left. You're like, wait a minute. Wait, what? No, no, no. I want my fun scenario here. And
Yeah.
then Cal, fortunately, with a great drive there, gets in the end zone. And SMU gets in field goal range, but their kicker unfortunately missed it. I don't know what the future holds for Cal. Obviously, we're going to talk all about the coaching carousel and this and that with whoever their new hire is. But I think it needs to be the plan of everyone in that community. Their quarterback, Jaron Kialwe Sangapolatele. Yes, I learned how to pronounce the name solely for this sentence. Keep that man in Cal no matter what, is what I would do if I'm everyone at the University of California. Said, whoever we hire is whatever. We cannot let him leave because
Hey,
that is something that is going to be a spark to keep Cal alive. He had a great freshman year for California.
and we saw what happened when they let Fernando Mendoza walk out the door this past offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what he's doing in Indiana. So
Exactly. They
yeah, let's
cannot let him leave. They cannot let him leave.
let's keep some of that talented Cal quarterback room in Cal. But now let's
Exactly.
flash back to Thursday and Friday. Georgia Tech. This was a ball game. Another kind of like last year, kind of a gross, ugly, fist fight. That was a fun game for a guy like me to watch. But I know it wasn't exactly a must-see TV. But Georgia wins at 16-9. But look, I'm going to say it. I left this game feeling a very similar way to the way I felt last year after this game. Georgia, while they're ranked high, they look extremely, extremely beatable. And then of course, we had what happened last season. Carson Beck gets hurt. Gunnar Stockton kind of plays in last minutes notice in some of those games. And so obviously that didn't help their college football playoff
Right.
run.
Yeah.
But and I'm not going to discredit anybody. I'm not going to say Georgia played bad, but I think you've seen kind of the way to match this Georgia team. Georgia Tech came out and played hard, played tough, played physical, and they kind of just matched Georgia in that physicality, and that helped them stay in this game. But it was a great job, great resilience to get the job done, to keep the Yellow Jackets limited. I don't want it to sound like complete hate for Georgia. They played a great game and they got
Mhm.
the job done when they needed to. Obviously, kind of like when we looked at the Pitt game with Georgia Tech, you play a pretty good game all around. But you'll get that second quarter,
Mhm.
13-0, the score differential. And in every other quarter, they match or they outscore Georgia. I mean, albeit they're all threes in the score column for them, but still
Right.
outscoring or matching Georgia in every other quarter. But to just get dominated 13-0 in a quarter, just kind of tough to come back from when you can't hit pay dirt in the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, rivalry week is hard for anyone, and especially it's difficult when you give up 13 points in a quarter and you don't match it with any points. That's tough to do. Overall in this game, again, I think your point about Georgia is fair. You could say that point about, and I'm going to say it against every team in the SEC at this point. Bama,
That's
I
true.
look at and I say I'm pretty worried about because J.M. Miller got injured. I'm pretty worried about A&M because we saw bad Marcel Reed again. We'll talk more about that in a second. But so the whole SEC is kind of like that. But if there's one thing that I'm still confident in is Kirby Smart teams locking in for big games. And they knew what was at stake to make sure they could keep up being a top 4 seed and getting that bye. And the defense stepped up and really slowed down this Georgia Tech offense, limited their ground game. The ground game did virtually nothing for them. And kind of like we talked about with the Pitt game for Georgia Tech, if Georgia Tech can't run the ball and Haynes King has to throw it to beat you, you're feeling pretty good about your chances. And that's what happened here. And I will give Georgia credit for one more thing here. I talked about it the whole year, Austin, about how they just haven't gotten, the defensive line hasn't gotten pressure on the quarterback. They got a lot of pressure on Haynes King in this game and gives me some confidence maybe playing that SEC title game next week. They can get pressure on Ty Simpson. This could get very interesting because they did not touch him when they played against Alabama earlier this year.
Yeah, and this might again be the best time to play the Tide. Kind of after the performance they had in Jordan Hare. Again, not terrible, but certainly, especially for Ty Simpson standards, he did throw the 3 touchdowns, but 122 yards. Yeah, a little bit shaky
And they
there.
just looked out of
But
sync that whole game too. I mean, you watch the offense after the 17-0 start, they just look out of sync the rest of the game. I mean, it was ugly to watch. So as long as you get off to a good start like that and your defense helps you against Georgia, then I guess that's fine. But there's major question marks for both those teams heading into that matchup on Saturday.
agreed. Um, let's talk about Texas A&M, Texas. Look, I think the SEC messed up. They let Arch Manning get that Arkansas game and kind of find his footing. He didn't carry this team, but another
Right.
pretty solid performance. I kind of I don't know. I'm starting to kind of ride the Texas hype train coming into next season after seeing Arch Manning kind of start to get his feet under him. And of course, get the huge 10-point victory over the number 3 team in the nation. Play spoiler, keep A&M out of the SEC championship with this victory. Um, and like you said, we saw another kind of shaky performance from Marcel Reed. And look, every quarterback has these games, but it is unfortunate that in this moment, chance to go to the SEC championship
Hmm.
on the line. And this is kind of where you stub your toe and kind of fall on your face. And now you've got to sit out for what, 2 or 3 weeks until college football playoff time rolls around. And
Yeah,
just think about this.
they're gonna be in no matter what. That's what they and depending on results on Saturday, they'll get a home game at Kyle Field, which I'm
Yeah,
sure they will not complain about one bit if they get that. I can promise you. But this kind of feels like the second year in a row Texas has kind of punched A&M right in the face. Like they really dominated the game, over 200 yards rushing. And I kind of agree with your point on Arch. To me, the way people were entering the season about Arch this year is what I feel like should be the thing that should be going into next year. Like I
agreed.
felt like everyone was a year ahead of the curve here.
Agreed.
That's why I said let's see him play some games, and if you play some games, then talk to me. And then as the season went along, you saw him start to get better and kind of trying to build something here. And so I think if he comes back next year, which I fully expect him to at this point, uh, I expect the expectations. We're going to hear them all again, but I'll actually be like, you know what? He had a pretty solid end to the year last year. So I'd actually listen to the arguments, unlike being like, can we just shut up about the Arch Manning stuff? The guy hasn't even started a game yet. Um,
Yeah.
but big for Texas. Steve Sarkisian, in the honest words, you're not going to the playoff, buddy. You want to go to the playoff, don't lose to 4-8 Florida. I'll just leave it at that. And for A&M, this hurts. Again, the inconsistencies of Marcel Reed might be the thing that holds this team back from winning a national title this year. Because a good
Agreed.
running game, I thought they had. Defense played pretty solid, but you make those mistakes at the quarterback position, it's going to hurt you no matter what. So if Marcel Reed can get some consistency in his game right before the playoff, maybe something can happen. But that could be the thing that holds them back this year, and have A&M fans sitting there going, "Man, what if?"
Yeah. And then the last game we'll talk about, a couple 8-3 squads that faced off. Arizona State squared off, and Arizona gets a big 23-7 victory. Um, and look, the Wildcats came out and they got the job done. And look, this is kind of the performance I expected from more teams. You get a chance to play a little bit of spoiler. Obviously, it didn't matter because BYU won their game.
Right.
Kind of shaky first half for BYU though, but BYU won their game. But nobody knows that coming into this game. That's tomorrow's trouble.
Right.
So go out. Arizona State thinks they've got a chance at a Big 12 championship, so they're going to play for it. And for Arizona to go out and get this big win and play spoiler, especially after last year and the fork in the field and that whole incident,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm sure it felt good to be a Wildcat and get this one back.
Yeah, I'm so mad there was no flag plantings this year. Come
Yeah.
on. No, step up, do it 2 years in a row, everybody. Come on now. The thing that hurt him in this game, the quarterback position. Word for word, it was Jeff Sims. We said he had done a decent job, and we didn't know how he was going to be coming into this game. He threw 3 interceptions. The offense really doesn't do much against Arizona. And the Arizona offense had a good quarterback in Noah Fafita, who could be efficient enough to win the game. That's exactly what happened here. Great building year for Arizona here. After a disappointing year last year, they have built and had a really strong finish this year. And now, Noah Fafita entering his senior year next year. Maybe a team we keep an eye on in the Big 12 next year in Arizona, depending on what they do in recruiting and in the transfer portal this year.
Yeah. But let's take a look at some of these coaching hires we had because
Oh my
they
gosh,
went
so there's
crazy.
so many. Oh my gosh.
And let's start at the U of A. Ryan Silverfield coming over from Memphis to take over at the University of Arkansas. First thoughts from a Hog fan on this hiring.
Well, I don't know if you have heard any of Arkansas Twitter during this whole hiring process. I won't
Sadly,
talk
I
about
have.
the other hires, but whenever it came out that Sunday morning about Ryan Silverfield getting hired as the coach, me and along with everyone, all other people in the state of Arkansas, well, we were not happy campers. Not happy campers about it because we wanted someone else. I personally wanted someone else. You already know who that is. But I posted a video on my Instagram about it, and I said word for word, I'm gonna give him a chance. I don't want to, but I'm gonna give him a chance. And you know, I thought it was interesting. The thing that has shifted me though from being questionable about the hire to starting to like it was he made a point, Austin, whenever he got hired to talk about keeping in-state people home, keeping in-state players home in Arkansas, and all this and that. And then he posted something up to the Arkansas Coaches, High School Coaches Association, talking about I look forward to keeping these guys home in their home state and playing for them. And that's the thing I couldn't stand about Sam Pittman. Never recruited the state. All guys were leaving the state. And again, I'm not saying you have to go get everyone from the state of Arkansas because, not everyone's an elite recruit. But keeping those top guys in the state, that should be goal number one if you're the head coach at Arkansas. We don't let those number one players in the state go anywhere else. And so whenever he made that post to the High School Coach Association, I posted this. I said, if Silverfield is serious about this, which I hope he is, and I think more and more people will start to like this hire, there's no reason for great high school talent to leave this state. He doesn't have to get them all, but if he can keep the top names home, it'll be a big win. Well, one day later, Austin, he flipped the number one player in the state of Arkansas, a 4-star running back, Bryant linebacker, and is currently getting more as we speak. You want to find an easy way to get a fan base on your side, flipping and keeping some in-state talent home is an early sign to do that. And I think it builds confidence there. And a lot of guys feeling they can turn this program around. Very intrigued. They're also bringing in the Memphis GM. He's coming over with Ryan Silverfield. And he's only going to be the football GM, not a GM over all sports, just for football, which I think is the right move. They've needed to do that for a while. So mixed feelings from some, but I love what I've seen in the early signing day, what he's able to do recruiting already in the state of Arkansas. We'll see what he can do in the transfer portal whenever it comes time for that in January. Um, and listen, You could be good at recruiting all you want in the state of Arkansas. You better have results on the field. Chad Morris had top 25 recruiting classes. Look how that turned out for him. It's a hire I'm going to be a little cautious about, but I've grown more to it as the days have progressed since the hire was announced.
Yeah, I have, not as strong feelings. Look, I'll be honest. When Golsh came out a few days before that, and it was alleged that that was going to happen, I just
Oh,
assumed that that was going to
I was
happen.
so I'm Trey
Um,
Shapp. It's on site. Next time I see you, it's on site, Trey Shapp. It's on site.
I think that's a huge fumble. Um, but look, if I was him after seeing what everybody said after it was announced, I probably wouldn't have come either.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that everybody was like that because I did see positives, but I did see a lot of people that didn't
Yeah.
like that hire. And I'm like, do
Exactly.
you
That
have
that's the thing that I
eyeballs?
knew hurt it. That's the thing. Whenever I was helping my mom get some Christmas stuff from storage, and we were talking about it, she's like, he might just not come because there's not a lot of people that seem to be very excited about the potential hire. And I'm like, that's a very fair point there. That's a very fair point.
Yeah, I think that helped kill it. And I think that's a huge fumble. Why anybody is letting that get out before it's on paper is beyond me. The leaks that some of these teams seem to have
Oh my
across
gosh.
all
Yeah.
sports is beyond me. That feels like something you're keeping like in your tight. That feels like something that like seven people should know about,
Yeah.
and it, something that one of those seven people let it out. I just don't understand how that kind of blunder gets made. But look, I didn't hate the hiring even after knowing that. It surprised me because I didn't really expect
Yeah.
Golsh to just kind of come out of the conversation. But I was like, okay, Memphis has been consistently good. Now I do understand some of people's his conference record isn't fantastic.
Yeah.
He's never won the American, even though Memphis has pretty good resources,
Yes.
pretty good for an American school. I'll say this much: resources don't buy you everything. If they did, we'd have different teams in the college football playoff competing for a national championship right now. So I'm not going to hold that against him. And anyway, he won't have to worry about it since the Waltons and Tyson want to hold out on the football team. I'll just go ahead and say it on here. Until they're, I'll stop slandering them when they start putting some more money into the football program. So sad. It's so sad to me how much money they put in to the University of Missouri when they're based in
Mm.
Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's sad. It's disgusting. I say take their logos off the field until they're paying more money.
Well,
So
and
you
Austin, the problem with it, and the reason I really don't think they are, the problem is, and I think me and you both know exactly what that problem is that athletic director up there and the people up there that run that
I
university
agree.
along with it. Because I want it to be known, the reason people were so mad about Silverfield hiring not because who Ryan Silverfield was as a person. He was any of us. It's an SEC job. Of course, I'm going to go take it if I'm offered it. And so the problem was Hunter Yurchek not understanding this fan base and not understanding what they want to see or just like anything at all. Because the prime example, Austin, the hiring happens that morning. It gets reported. All Razorback Twitter's pissed. There's literally a planned protest on the university. And what does Hunter Yurchek do? He posts a video of the Razorback Stadium with like red smoke coming out of it for the hiring. It's like, read the freaking room, buddy. Like, for the love of everything, read the room. And it's funny. The comment section on that was some of the best entertainment I've seen in a while. I'm not going to lie. That comment section provided a lot of entertainment. But to me, I'm going to give Silverfield a chance, but nothing as a whole up there with the Waltons and everyone up there, Austin. Nothing is going to change until there is some change with those higher ups. Because personally, I don't think either side wants to work with each other, and that's hurting it for not just for the Waltons and them, but it's hurting it for the University of Arkansas and the athletic director and all those positions.
I agree. I look, it's not just on the Waltons and Tyson and whatnot. Look, I hold them huge accountable because you're based in Fayetteville. You should have a little support, especially if you want your logos on the field. But if I'm Hunter Yurchek, it's my big problem too. Hunter Yurchek is letting them put Walmart here, Walmart there, all over campus and university. What are we getting for that? What are we getting for that? Nothing. At least I'll give John Tyson this. He's paying John Calipari's salary, should still be doing
Yep.
more for football, but at least he's helping the university. What are the Waltons doing? You got enough money to go out and buy the Denver Broncos, put
Also very
some
true.
money into the university, or I'm taking your stupid, dumb sparkle off the field. It makes me so mad. They have this giant yellow sparkle on the field for fun. For fun. I don't even like the Razorbacks as much as you do, and it makes me mad. If Notre Dame had a giant Walmart sparkle on the field and they weren't paying $50 million in our NIL every year, I'd be so mad. It blows my mind how you can be so like, and it's again, it's 100% Hunter Yurchek's fault because he's like, yeah, put the logo on the field and give me nothing for it. Just put it on the field. I'm sure they're paying for it, but they're not paying enough for it. You want your free advertising every Saturday when fans line up in the stadium to watch the game?
Mhm.
Yeah, no, you're gonna build me a SEC football team. That's what you're gonna do.
Yeah,
And the
I
fact that
think
he
so.
doesn't have the stones to do it, yeah, he should have been axed from his job a long time ago. How Hunter Yurchek has a job, I do not know.
Yeah, and look, I'm gonna not harp on it any longer. All I'm gonna say is I'm gonna give Silverfield a chance. I hope he succeeds because there's nothing I want more than a successful Arkansas football program. There's nothing more that I want than that. But he's gonna have his hands tied, and if he can get it done with that, then he definitely has earned the respect of everyone in the state, even more than maybe if, depending on what goes on the football field.
Yeah. Let's get to Auburn here. Another team that I think, not necessarily because the talent, again, kind of in the same Arkansas thing. I don't hate the hire that this team made, but a huge fumble to me in the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah.
Had John Summerall and said, hey, I just want to hear out a couple, I want to just weigh my options. And Auburn University, who do you think you are to say, no, no, we don't want you anymore? And look, they got a guy in Gulch who I really, really, really like. I think this is a good hire. But to be on your high horse as the University of Auburn, who's been one of the laughing stocks of the SEC in football over the last couple of years, to be like, what? You want to see if there's a better there are no better jobs than Auburn is sad to me. It's
Yeah.
honestly sad.
So I will tell you my perspective on this. So I'm laying in bed after rivalry week. I'm like on Twitter right before I'm going to bed, and I see a report that there's going to be a meeting at 10 a.m. on Sunday to announce the new head coach or like 11 a.m. to announce the new head coach at Auburn. And I had not seen anything at all besides John Summerall at that point. And then you hear about him potentially flipping to Florida most likely, and I'm like, well, who are they going to get? And then I was like, oh, they're going to make DJ Durkin the full-time coach, aren't they? That. I went to bed on Saturday night thinking I was going to wake up to DJ Durkin being the full-time, getting announced as full-time coach. I was like, well, at least if Arkansas is at the bottom, they're going to be there with us as long as he's coach. Then I see the drama with Ryan Silverfield, and I see it for Golish, and I legit said whenever I saw it, I was like, where the hell did this come from? I haven't heard a single thing about Golish to Auburn. Like there had been reports about Summerall all over the place at points. Silverfield some. The only one I had heard anything about with Golish was Arkansas. That was the only place I had heard anything. So for him to go to Auburn, I was like, what the hell? When did this happen? But talking about the hire actually, as someone who literally this whole coaching carousel, my number one pick for any team has been Alex Golish. So I will go ahead and say right now, this is an awesome hire for Auburn. I think he embodies it. He's got SEC experience. I think give him a little bit of time. Give him a year or two, set the roster what he needs to be. And that's something that's been a problem at Auburn. They really haven't let coaches get comfortable there because they're like, hey, you better win right away. Give him a little bit of time, build something. And I promise you, Auburn football is going to be a problem if they give him the time. I'm not just saying that. I'll put it on record here. If they give him 3 or 4 years at least to build this thing, I guarantee we're going to see Auburn back near the top of the SEC. Maybe not at the top, but they are going to be competing with the best ones in the SEC if they give him time. Clip it. I'm going to post it on TikTok. You can come back to this in a couple years and let me know if I'm right or wrong on this.
Here's the thing I'm going to say about this hire, in a positive light, because I do like the Alex Gulch hire. And look, I was saying this to anybody that would listen when, it came out that he might become an Arkansas. Look, I love Golsh and what he's been able to do. He's kept USF competitive. He kept Byram Brown his
Mhm.
entire collegiate career at USF. You're telling me that guy couldn't have gotten a job somewhere else in the transfer portal, the way college football works now? Kept him at USF. Not to mention, again, look, I talked about this at the beginning of the year. All the SEC talent he brought in from the transfer
Mhm.
portal to build that USF defense this year. Look, and I get it. It's not SEC star players, but it's guys who are on SEC rosters, guys who had SEC scholarships who are looking for a more play now opportunity. And they got that. This guy's great in the portal at keeping players, at getting new players. I'm with you. He is going to help. If Auburn gives him a chance, he's going to help build this team and put
I
him
think
back
so.
on the
I
map
think so.
because
And to add in the one thing about the South Florida thing, the 3 years they before he got there, they had a combined total of 4 wins in those 3 years. He has come in every single year and has had 7 or more wins each year. So give him time and build something here. Sorry to cut you off, but I want to add that in there about his time in South Florida.
no, no, you're exactly right. I think, and I'm just saying that now he's in the SEC, you're going to have even more guys. You could get guys to come from the SEC to South Florida. Now you're asking guys, hey, come play in the SEC. That's always a huge boost in the old transfer talks.
Absolutely.
Then at Florida, we've got John Summerall coming in. And look, it feels like every time we're talking about it, we have a coach, a team that was with another coach, and then they
Hmm.
pull out and go a different direction. Um, and look, and now I'm not going to say in this case Florida had Lane Kiffin because they certainly didn't.
No.
They pulled out because they realized they didn't have him. Um, but they were in on Kiffin so hard, and then I guess it good on them that they realized and were able to pivot and go and get a guy like Summerall. But yeah, it was a pretty hard swing at Lane Kiffin before pulling out, and I think getting a pretty good option. And Summerall, I guess maybe it's a good thing that Auburn got slippery fingers in this endeavor.
Yeah, I was about to say, Florida's like, thank you, Auburn, for that one. But I still remember when this job opened up the first time, I was like, there's no way Lane Kiffin doesn't go there. And then another job opened up that we're going to talk about in a second involving Lane Kiffin opened up. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's not going there. And so whenever they pivoted, I remember thinking that's the right move because now it's very clear LSU was going to offer crap ton of stuff for him. So I like the pivot. And the thing that just annoys me about it is just again this Florida fan base, the way they treated Billy Napier on the way out. I'm not saying Billy was perfect. I'm not saying he was the best coach, but he deserved better than the way he got treated there from the jump. And any person deserved to be treated better than he did from the jump there. And they hired John Summerall, and all I hear from people is Billy Napier 2.0, Billy Napier 2.0. We just hired Billy Napier again. Really? So Billy Napier has been in a conference championship every year he's been a head coach? Has he really? Because I sure
Yeah.
didn't see that. And John Summerall, I think, is a phenomenal hire for Florida. Again, and with all these hires, I will say this they can be great coaches. Building the staff is what's going to keep you around. If you build a good staff around you, you're going to have a shot no matter anywhere you go. And
Yeah.
I think it's a hire that is going to work. He's built solid staffs. He's come in and he came into Tulane. Also, remember that coach left for Houston, so all the pressure's on him is, hey, keep us at the top of the American. Keep us at the top of the American. How does he respond? Made the conference championship every year he's been at Tulane. So I think this is a coach that can handle the pressure. And he literally said in his press conference, he's like, yeah, if I was a Florida fan, I'd be upset we didn't get Lane Kiffin too. And I'm like, I like this guy. I like this guy a lot for the job. I don't know how he'll do, but I think there's good potential here. And Florida fans, I think, should be happy they were able to get him and that Auburn fumbled that at the last second.
Yeah. We've got the bell of the ball coming up here with LSU. They get Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss. And look, I'm just gonna come out and say it. What did Lane Kiffin ever do to anybody? I mean, I'm gonna be like extremely exaggeratory here. Like I'm gonna
Right.
exaggerate a bit. I don't think that's a real word. I think I just made it up. I'm gonna exaggerate a bit, but they acted like he was Osama bin Laden. I'm sorry. What did he do? Like he takes the job at LSU. And look, I personally don't think he should have taken it because I don't really know what you get out of LSU that you don't already get at Ole Miss. Uh, because clearly the getting like really good recruits didn't really help Brian Kelly. Now I think Lane Kiffin's a better coach than Brian Kelly, and I hope he has more success at LSU. But it's I don't know. It's just not the big attraction. Doesn't make. I mean, what besides Coach O's championship year, LSU wasn't even really that like great when
Mm,
Coach O was there, minus 2019, which is why he got fired shortly after. So it's just like I don't know. To me, I get they're a big program, they're a big name. I don't know. I may have taken the job too in his situation. I don't really see what he had to gain, but he didn't commit a national threat. People are like Lane Kiffin is just the worst guy ever. What? He took a job. He took a really good salary at a really big name program, and he's a terrorist. Like, what did he do? And they're like,
yeah.
he's always I like, and I kind of I didn't like Brandon Walker at first at Barstool, and then he's
Oh,
kind of grown on me. But he's like Lane Kiffin was always a bad guy, and he's always been a bad guy, and Ole Miss forgot he was a bad guy, and now they remember that he's a bad guy now that he's leaving. What? Because he left Tennessee to go to USC? Who wouldn't have? Who would have stayed at that
mhm,
Tennessee team to go to USC? And sure, he gets fired on the tarmac. Not really his fault. He kind of sure he kind of sucked at
mhm.
USC, but firing on the tarmac doesn't make him a bad guy. If anything, it makes the AD kind of a bad guy for firing him getting on the plane. Uh, I don't know. I just don't know what the guy did that's so bad that people come out and they're like, he's just the worst. I don't know. I wouldn't personally, just on paper, I don't know what he gets from LSU that he doesn't get at Ole Miss if they really did match his contract offer. But he went to a more prestigious university where he thinks he's going to compete more. Coaches do it every day. And if Lane Kiffin had gone, you know, 7-4 this year, or what 7-5 this year, he wouldn't still be the coach at Ole Miss. They would have dropped him just like that to find somebody better. So to act like he's wronged the university in a way that they would have never dropped Lane Kiffin if they could get a better option is just wrong, and it's sad. And that's what I hate so much is I thought I was going to be on Ole Miss's side in this whole thing.
Mm,
And for
yeah.
me personally, I think that it's to be like, oh, boo hoo us. Our coach left. It happens everywhere. Tulane didn't make a stink about it. USF's not making a stink about it. And sure, I don't think the disparity between Tulane and Florida is the same as it is between LSU and Ole Miss. But
Right.
my goodness, you've never been to an SEC championship, let alone won one. You might make the college football playoff. And now that you won't let Kiffin coach, I think you should be taken out of the college football playoff. I don't know. I don't. Lane Kiffin made Ole Miss something in the last what 6 years that he's been there.
Yeah.
They weren't anything before he got there, and to act like you've been criminally wronged because he took what I mean on paper might be a better opportunity is just unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. I'll just say I couldn't believe how many people came out like Lane Kiffin is a bad guy. That blows my mind.
The thing it is here, and first of all, I just want to shout out Marty Smith, ESPN reporter.
He pulled an
My
all-nighter, which was
gosh, dude.
awesome.
Whatever they're paying you, make them double it for that whole shenanigans that you had to go through. If you have not heard the story of him driving the RV and him quote saying, I had to Bo Duke it to go get an interview with Lane Kiffin. If you have not seen that interview, please go watch it. It is one of the funniest interviews ever I've ever seen. So pay Marty Smith double. Forget about what Lane Kiffin's paying. We need to pay Marty Smith double
Agreed.
what he's
Agreed.
got at
Because
ESPN.
he pulled an all-nighter in that facility just to be told nothing would be done until Sunday. And he was a man on a mission to get it figured out. Yeah, hats off to Marty.
Yeah, but as far as the actual thing goes, um, look, and you brought it up talking about the whole USC thing when he was at Tennessee. You want to know what that, of course, who wouldn't go? He literally coached at USC his entire time before he went to the NFL. I mean, he coached there. He learned under Pete Carroll. He worshiped the University of USC. Of course he was going to go. Of course he was. I don't know what people expect now. The thing that hurts Kiffin and why people aren't a fan of him is sometimes he does stuff that he thinks is like, I think this is fair. I should do this. And then it ends up looking like something completely different. Like the Tennessee job, whenever he left Tennessee to go to USC, he held a press conference after it had been announced and did a quick press conference and then left. And everyone's like, man, really? You're doing a press conference after it's already been announced at the university where you're just leaving? That just disgusting. And the thing this year that hurt him was obviously Ole Miss is right in the middle of the playoff hunt. They're right there in the middle of it. And they're like, what? You're going to leave us in the middle of the playoff hunt to go to a school that we literally beat this year? Now, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. If it's me, I don't get why he left. Because if anything, it's a more difficult job. Because at Ole Miss, this is the best span of football they've ever had. If he goes every now and then, if he goes 9-3, they like, hey, just an off year, we'll be fine. You go 9-3 or 8-4 at LSU, they want your head on a silver platter. Like if you're not winning double-digit games every single year at LSU, they want you gone. So if anything, it's a tougher job. Maybe Lane wants the bigger expectation for that. Which, if that's what he wants, then I don't hate the move for him. But talking about it, I think for LSU to get him is awesome. I don't know how
They
he's going
needed
to do
it.
at LSU because I think we all thought he was going to lead USC to amazing things when he got hired there, and look how that ended. But I think he has a really good chance to do some amazing things there at LSU. He's already got great recruiting. He's got, as if he wasn't doing amazing recruiting at Ole Miss, he's got way more resources now, as if he didn't have enough already at Ole Miss to go and get amazing recruiting classes and amazing players. And his scheme, his offense is already hard to stop for anybody. And now he's going to LSU and do it. I'm very intrigued to see how he does there. And for Ole Miss, I know it hurts, but whenever we get to talking about the rankings, you're still going to get your shot at the playoff. And hey, speaking of Pete Golding, their brand new head coach.
Yeah. Look, we're gonna cut the coaching talk off there. We've got some more hires that happened, but those were the big ones. Next week, conference championship, we'll catch everybody up on everything
Yes.
else. But those were obviously the big ones that everybody really wanted to hear about, I'm sure.
The only
I
thing I
don't
want
know
to
how
add in
many.
here is, for the love of God, Penn State, figure something out. That's the only
I
thing I want to
know.
hear. For the love of God, figure it out.
At this point, they're stubbing their toes and they're really cheating themselves of good opportunities because
Oh,
candidates are flying out left and right. I'm sure we
oh.
don't have that many people listening that really care about the Michigan State or UCLA hires. So we'll catch you up on
Next
those
week. Yeah, we'll get you
in the
caught up when we
conference
have more
championship
time to talk about. We got a lot of other
when
stuff to
it's
talk
a short
about.
episode, but we've got so much to talk about coming into this episode. Um, but with you, yeah, it's just crazy everything that's happened. Again, I just don't know how Lane Kiffin's wronged anybody. I get why you might be upset, but I think it's extremely overdramatic. That's my personal opinion.
uh,
Maybe you don't like him. I'm not saying you have to like him as a guy, but to act like he's committed some kind of horrible offense is just beyond me.
hey, all I
Um,
think I'll add in here for that is, man, I tell you what, when LSU goes to Oxford next year,
it'll be a
I
fun
tell you
time.
what, that is going to be some must see television. I don't care what I'm doing that Saturday. I will find a way to watch the entire pregame buildup of that, the entire game, and then the postgame discussion. That will be must watch TV for anybody.
Yeah, it will be. I agree with you there. I'm gonna have to tune in for that. Um, but let's get into our teams and players of the week, and we'll kick it off with team of the week. Who do you got there?
So, number five, I mean, if you're going to knock and cause total chaos in the ACC, I had to put you in there. I had California in there. Great win, even though, again, with the interim coach not getting the job or not getting the job done with their full time coach, they went out there and got a big win and really caused chaos in the rest of the playoff. Um, Number four, I know you're thinking is, what is Yale doing on here at number four? What the heck have they done? Well, for those of you who don't know, the FCS playoff started last week. And for the first time ever, the Ivy League is involved in the FCS playoffs. And so Yale was playing at Youngstown State. And, it felt like We'll see what they can do. Youngstown State held a 42-14 lead in the third quarter. Yale came back to win that thing 43-42 in regulation.
Go Bulldogs.
Yes, Yale making some noise. You love to see it for them. So they're number 4. Number 3, I had Texas, big win, taking down your in-state rival, keeping them out of the SEC championship. Again, building up for next year. I think next year truly could be the kind of year that Texas fans thought this year was going to be. Number 2 is Vandy. Again, I thought this was the best performance in the last 2 years for them. I thought they came in there and kicked the crap out of Tennessee and dominated them. But number 1, look, with all the talking we've done and everything that everyone's done, Ohio State finally won the big game for the first time in 4 years. So I put them as my number 1 team because Lord knows they have not had to hear the end of it for a while there.
No kidding. Um, At number 5, I went Vanderbilt. Look, I thought this was a great opportunity to put on kind of your last ditch effort to show all out for the committee and give yourself one last chance. Especially again, I know they didn't know this, but at the time, games going on simultaneously, it looked like they might have an opportunity to really make a case for themselves. So to just go out there, put it all on the line against a big rival in Tennessee on the road and get the job done, it was a great performance for them. And number 4, I went with Arizona. Look, I love these rivalry games. I love playing spoiler. I think that's so fun. I think for me as a competitor, that's a big thing to look forward to. Is saying, hey, we made sure maybe we didn't go, but we made sure you're not going either. And I like that from Arizona here, which is why I've got them at number 4 to get that big win over Arizona State, a team looking to get themselves back in the Big 12 championship and just take that opportunity out of their hands. At number 3, I went with Cal. Look, this is the team, like you talked about, gave us some chaos in the ACC, leaves us with Duke now in the conference championship. Had to go with Cal Golden Bears, putting it all on the line. At number 2, I went with Ohio State. Like you said, got the job done, everything they've heard, win the big game, and really kind of dominated. Huge performance to them. But at number 1, I went with the Texas Longhorns. Like we've been talking about all episode, this is a huge win. This is great momentum. Of course, they'll have a bowl game at some point. But this was just great momentum to close out the season and kind of show, hey, I know we didn't meet the expectations, but we showed why we had the expectations. And I think now we can see, a bright picture for this Texas team coming back next year. But on our social media, look, it was all Texas and Ohio State. And our winner this week, the Texas Longhorns, the team of the week
Wow.
in rivalry week.
Wow. Good. Hey, again, good win for them building on that. We'll see what it does. Obviously, they still think they have a realistic shot. Let's just put it to bed. They're not getting into playoff, people. But this is a great thing to build into next year. And like I said, all the hype, all the build up this year that people had expected, that's going to be, I think, what we're going to see out of Texas next year.
Agreed. Now let's get into those players of the week. Top 5 players of the week. I know we both had quite different lists this week, which had fun seeing.
Yeah, talking about number 5 here, Malachi Tony. Like I mentioned during the Pittsburgh Miami game, we talked about just extremely talented guy. He's been gifted. Hadn't really talked about him as much due to some of the struggles the offense had during some of those stretches there. But he's an amazing receiver. They keep him around. If they don't, I know there are plenty of schools in the SEC that are going to come gunning for him if they can. So he had a great performance, over 100 yards and a touchdown. He even threw a pass in the game. I don't think it was complete, if I remember correctly, but he threw a pass. So I thought that was funny. Number 4, I went with John Nestor, corner from Minnesota. Had a great game, multiple interceptions, had a forced fumble. Good end to the year for Minnesota. I'll tell you what, they're such a consistent school now under PJ Fleck. Again, are they the best team in the world? No, but he is going to get the best out of his teams, and they are consistently 7 or 8 win teams. And John Nestor is part of that. 2 interceptions and a forced fumble to go along with it. Number 3, had to go with a guy that I haven't mentioned since he was a Razorback, Isaiah Satania, wide receiver at Oklahoma, broke open the game against LSU with the big touchdown for the Sooners. I think LSU forgot to play secondary on that play. I don't know where they were, but
Yeah.
He has been the big spark player for this offense the last couple of weeks to get those plays to win the games, and he had one this game. Want to show him some love. Number two, the quarterback I mentioned earlier, Jaron Keonway Sangapalatelli. Like I said, Cal, do whatever you can to keep this man here, whatever it takes, whatever he wants to get paid. Add another 5 million onto it. Okay, just do whatever it takes to keep him there. Had a great performance, 300 yards, multiple touchdowns, taking down SMU in this one. But number one, Jaden Baugh from the Florida Gators. I mean, had a field day against Florida State, who at least their defense had been playing pretty solid, I thought, for the most part this year. 266 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Sophomore running back from Atlanta, Georgia, might be a guy to keep an eye on in the portal or at Florida next year with that. But I had him as number one. He came ready to play for rivalry week, that's for sure.
Yeah, I like that. At number five, I had Miles Scott, DB from Illinois. Look, we haven't talked a lot about Illinois. Kind of fell off in the second half of the season, but we saw kind of that defense look a lot better against Northwestern. And Miles Scott was at the forefront of it. 2 interceptions, I believe. One of them he took back for a touchdown. Great performance there. And number four, I went with Camden Brown out of Georgia Southern. Look, this guy, 9 receptions, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the 24-19 victory over Marshall. And a
Mm-hmm.
battle of 5 and 6 teams looking to
Yes.
be bowl eligible. Georgia Southern gets the job done. At number two, I went with Joe Jackson running the K-State. Boy, oh boy, K-State needed to have a good game this season. And I think they got it here with Joe Jackson. He put on an awesome performance against Colorado. 142 yards, 3 touchdowns against this Colorado D. Had all of the touchdown scores for his team in this one. Huge performance by him to close out the season again to go 6-6 and become bowl eligible. Big opportunity there. At number two, let's go with a guy that I love to talk about and haven't had a chance to talk about for a while, but he finally gets his feet back under him. Trinidad Chambliss. I have just
Yeah.
loved this guy this season, what he's been able to do. But he had a huge game in the Egg Bowl. Really went out swinging in this regular season. 359 yards and 4 touchdowns. I believe he also rushed a touchdown in this game. Huge performance in a huge bitter rivalry game to go 11-1 and hopefully maybe keep yourself in the college football playoff. But at number one, look, and we just talked about the guy last week and what a danger he could be next season. But he's thinking, why are we talking about next season when I still got games to play
Right.
this year? And that's Caleb Hawkins running back at North Texas. And look, this was kind of a toss to me. We thought about Nestamaker or Hawkins in this game, but 186 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground for Caleb Hawkins. I thought, you're telling me this guy scored 24 points by himself, just carrying the football into the end zone of your 52 against Temple to put yourself into the conference championship? Yeah, had to give hats off to Caleb Hawkins there. Again, just a true freshman running back. Excited for what the future is going to look like for that kid, wherever he ends up next year. But when we go to the polls, it's Isaiah Satenga and Caleb Hawkins winning polls left and right. That puts Caleb Hawkins, the true freshman running back, as our player of the week.
Wow. Wow. That is an amazing stunner right there. Good for Caleb Hawkins getting that player of the week. He's earned it. I want to add in another hire we're going to have to talk about next week whenever we get to talk about him. You mentioned Kansas State and, as I call him, Shoeless Joe Jackson. Shout out the
Yeah.
legend. But Kansas State had a coaching change today that we'll dive into more on next week. So they're another one that we're going to see some changes with. But absolutely love seeing it for Caleb Hawkins. And I mean, the Trinidad Chambliss story, I mean, that's just an awesome story. I mean, as a
Yeah.
whole, Austin, where he came from last year was a Heisman winner for Division II. Comes there as the backup. He comes in and performs better than Austin Simmons has. And that's not someone who was like, oh, maybe Austin Simmons. No, there was huge expectations for Austin
Yeah.
Simmons this year. And he came in and shut them all up. So I don't know if he stays at Ole Miss, but I guarantee you this, man, oh man, He has made himself some money and he has earned the respect of a lot of people with the way he has come out and played this year for the Ole Miss Rebels.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's been an awesome performance and an awesome season for Trinidad Chambliss. But let's take a look at the top 25, and we'll start with breaking down the top 10 here in the college football playoff ranking. And at number one, Ohio State stays the same, and at number two, Indiana stays the same. But now let's feel the shockwave of what happens when the number three team in the nation falls in rivalry week. Georgia moves up to number three. Texas Tech moves up to number four. Oregon up to number five. Ole Miss up to six. Seven is where Texas A&M falls, 4 spots. Oklahoma stays put at 8. Alabama and Notre Dame flip-flop to put Bama at 9, Notre Dame at 10. And look, I'll just say it before we even get there. I know what they're doing here, and I hate it. Look, I'm not worried about Miami. The committee's made it pretty clear that Miami was kind of a long shot to making it over Notre Dame. If it came down to those two teams, they like Notre Dame more than they like Miami. I I'm a Notre Dame fan, but I personally think that's fair because Miami's lost two extremely winnable games this season in the conference that will now have a 5-loss team representing half of the conference championship. I don't know if that's exactly the look you want in the college football playoff. Um, what I'm worried about is what they were trying to avoid. What happens if Alabama loses the SEC championship and BYU wins the Big 12 championship?
Mm.
Alabama would if Alabama's at 10, probably go out and BYU comes in because you have to do it that way. I I I think it's an easier conversation to have if BYU wins and you put Notre Dame out. And look, granted, I think that's fair. That's the BYU over Notre Dame is fair. I just don't think that it's fair to say Alabama fighting tooth and nail against Auburn and Notre Dame scorching Stanford is a cause for a flop at 9 and 10. I know why they did it, and I think they're justified in what might happen if BYU wins the Big 12. But I just think it's kind of something that maybe we should have been preparing for weeks in advance as opposed to just now.
Yeah, my thoughts. Number one, I'm amazed Ole Miss stayed at 6. Again, that was the whole thing I was curious about was are they going to drop? Because one of the things they have on their criteria, player injuries, coaching changes, all that can affect it. And whenever they came out and were like, yep, they're there at number 6. But the thing that helped them, Charlie Weiss Jr. is expected to come back and call plays for the playoff run. So I think that ultimately did help them out there. Um, not that I disagreed with Alabama and Notre Dame, like where their spots were, but the reasoning, and this is why we have the great Hunter Yurchek as the leader of this committee. I heard this and I legit almost fell on my floor laughing because I couldn't believe this was an actual reason. Because whenever they saw it, Reese asked him, he's like, okay, we gotta know, Hunter, what was the reasoning behind flipping Alabama ahead of Notre Dame? He's like, well, they played a great first half against Auburn. What? Played a great first half against Auburn, and then they had a great gutsy fourth down call to win the Iron Bowl, and we felt that was good enough to jump them over Notre Dame. What? What? If we're
The Notre
determining
Dame
if we're determining success or reasons to jump people by going for it on a fourth down late in the game, what are we doing here? Like you want to know the real thing, Austin? What they wanted to say, I think they wanted to look straight at the camera and go like this. We think Bama should be ahead of Notre Dame because we think Bama's the better team. That's what they think, I think. And the reason, and if they would have just said that, I'd have been like, okay, is that kind of odd? But at least that one's fair. Don't make up a BS reason like he did with that one talking about a great gutsy fourth down call. That's why we moved Bama ahead of Notre Dame.
again. I'm with you. Is Bama the better team? I think it's close, but I think it's fair to say Bama has had a better. Bama's losses, I think, are better than Notre Dame's losses comparatively. I think that is fair to say. And I think it's fair to say you think Alabama would be the better team in the college football playoff. And I think it's also fair to say that Alabama fans would be and college football fans would probably be more upset if Alabama was out, Notre Dame was in, and BYU was in, as opposed to Notre Dame falling out, who a lot of people are already complaining about being in the spot they're in right
Mhm.
now. I think that's the easier conversation to have. The issue is now because the way I'm with you. I wish they would have just said why they did it. It's easier to take Notre Dame out and put BYU in, and we think Alabama's the better team.
Right.
That's fair to say. Here's the problem: because you've given a BS story, and because you picked a week where Notre Dame flat out so going forward on fourth down in a close game with a bad team is better than flat out beating the brakes off a bad team and it never
Yeah.
being a question.
Again, like it was legit. It was legit one of the dumbest things I've heard. It's like, why would you think that was a good statement to say here? Again,
It's like,
just be honest.
just be honest. This was a very, very bad week to make this decision because I think had you done this at any other point in time, had Alabama just been ahead of Notre Dame when they lost to Oklahoma and you just moved Oklahoma up to 8, moved Bama down to 9, and moved Notre Dame down to 10, then had that happened, people would be like, that's how it needs to be. I think that's what people would have been okay with. But their logic was college football fans would rather Notre Dame come out and BYU come in than Alabama come out and BYU come in.
Yeah.
But the way they've done it now, they've turned college. I saw ESPN articles the last 3 weeks talking about people saying Notre Dame shouldn't be in and why fans are upset that Notre Dame's in. And now the exact opposite. College football fans are now mad that they have this stupid BS reason for Notre Dame and Alabama flip-flopping when Notre Dame played a better game than Alabama did this past weekend.
Yeah.
It's like you had everybody on your side. If they had left Notre Dame at 9 and BYU wins and Notre Dame falls out because Alabama played conference championship and Notre Dame doesn't play a conference championship, I think you'd have more people on your side than making the decision you made this past
I think so. And yeah, I think to me, and also I'll go ahead and last thing I'll add here before we move on to it. For all the people who are wondering, well, what if Bama loses this Saturday? It's like, no, I'll go ahead and tell you, Bama's in, ladies and gentlemen. 1 through 9 are getting in the playoff right now. There's no world where 1 through 9 are not getting in because, like the argument we had like a week or two ago, if you punish Bama for playing in the conference championship and losing, and then you knock them out, what is the point of playing in a conference championship game? Bama's made it. They're in. 1 through 9 are in the playoff, ladies and gentlemen.
If they'd been left at 9, if they'd been left at 9 or left at 10, sorry, and lost and BYU won and come in, that was the only fair argument to remove anybody from the college football playoff.
Right.
Because both those teams would have played in their conference championship. Different story. But like I said, this move from 9 to 10 was who is the team we'd rather knock out if BYU wins the Big 12. That's the only conversation that's left to have as far as college football playoff spots. Is BYU going to win and get in, or are they going to lose and Notre Dame gets in? The only other conversation is if Duke wins, what conference champions are we putting in the playoff? That's the only other conversation. But that has nothing to do with these. Like you said, 1 through 9 is settled. And unless BYU wins, 1 through 10 is settled.
Right.
So that's the conversation there. The committee's made it clear how they feel about Miami versus Notre Dame. This move tells you how they feel about who goes out if BYU wins. I think that's all settled. I'm completely with you. But we've got a lot more fun and a lot less hate-fueled rants on my part for the rest of this. Because, my goodness, they finally ranked some teams that didn't play in a Power 4 conference. Right. I was ecstatic to see teams that still have one loss in the top 25.
Mm-hmm.
At 11, we've got BYU. At 12, we've got Miami. Texas moves up 3 spots to 13. Vandy still staying put at 14. Oh, my goodness. Can we make something happen, people? Please. And Utah drops down 2 spots to 15. I'll say my piece real quick here. I don't know why Miami's hanging on at 12. I think they're a team that we can say was this close to the college football playoff. Sure. but you didn't go to your conference championship in the ACC that now has a five-loss school representing it. Sure, is it a really stupid tiebreaker that's keeping you out? And if you had most teams' fifth tiebreaker, that is where you rank in the college football playoff, you would be in. I understand how stupid that is, but it's not my fault your conference has stupid rules. It's your fault for playing in a conference, and it's your fault for losing two conference games that if you were a college football playoff team, you wouldn't have lost. I
Yeah.
just think that that's fair. Move Texas ahead of them, move Vandy ahead of them. I think Texas should be 12, Vandy should be 13, and Miami should be sitting at 14. There should not be a conversation in my I don't think there's any Miami couldn't. They had their last game before bowl games, and that wasn't enough to sway anybody. Nothing is going to change my mind. Miami is unworthy of a spot. They shouldn't be in the conference championship. If Duke wins the ACC championship, no ACC team should go to the conference championship. What a sad year it's been in the ACC. That's what we should say if Duke wins the ACC.
Yeah. I want to keep on riding the Notre Dame Miami thing with you, but the thing that's hurting it and the thing that's just constantly in my mind about it is I look through, and the thing that really caused me to change my mind about it was really them moving Texas ahead of Vanderbilt. And the reasoning for that was very fair. Number one, it was a great win over A&M. But number two, they could move Texas ahead because they beat Texas beat Vandy head to head in that matchup. So now you look at it, you've got the between top 25 teams with the same record, the whenever it looks at that, Georgia and Ole Miss. Georgia's got the head to head over them. Texas Tech, BYU, obviously Texas Tech got it over them. Oklahoma, Alabama, we saw that specifically here with Oklahoma being ahead of Bama. Bama ahead of Vandy, we saw that there. USC ahead of Michigan, and as we get further down in just a second. So that's the thing that's really hurting it right now. If they did not care about head to head or anything in this, I don't think people would be pissed off at all about the whole Miami Notre Dame scenario there. I don't think that would piss people off. The thing that's pissing them off is all these other ones head to head matters, but in this one case, it's not adding up, and that's what I think is pissing people off about it.
I'll say this much. And again, I know I'm a Notre Dame fan, and everybody's allowed to have their opinion. I think what you're saying is completely fair. I don't think, maybe besides Texas Vanderbilt, I don't think there's almost any of those that you can point your finger and say, after that game, this team looks substantially better than this team. I think that's my only thing. I think maybe Vanderbilt, Texas. Texas had some bad games. But when I look at Oklahoma and Alabama, sure, Oklahoma almost lost to LSU. Alabama almost lost to Auburn. Sure, Ole Miss has had a pretty good second half. I'd say Georgia's had a pretty good second half. Their roughest game was against Georgia Tech, who was ranked. So I think I agree. I understand what you're saying, and I understand why that is frustrating to people. And I think that's a fair gripe to have. My personal opinion, Notre Dame looks better than Miami. Miami, again, I just think it is extremely unforgiving. If that means Notre Dame can't make the playoff and needs to be ranked in the 20s, I'm for that. But I just cannot, and I will not allow an argument that says Miami is a college football playoff team. Those two ACC losses are god awful. I'm sorry. And I know SMU was a pretty decent team, and SMU's not playing in the conference championship. I just can't sit here and say Miami's a top 10 team. Miami's a top 15 team. I don't see it. I just don't see it. And I've said this since the beginning of the year. You can vouch for me, you can go back on the film. If that means Notre Dame isn't a college football playoff team, that is fine by me. I never thought we should have stayed in the top 25 when we did. I think we've gotten an extremely fair shake. I think we've gotten an unfair shake compared to some teams as far as the college football playoff is concerned. If Miami's not a top 15 team, and that means Notre Dame shouldn't be in the college football playoff, I'll do it. If that's what it takes to sway people. If I myself have to go on the college football playoff final rankings and announce to the world that Notre Dame's not a college football playoff team, I'll do it. I think it's fair. I think if our loss to Miami after the season they've had is unforgivable because we've been the better team the rest of the season. You can't convince me they're top 10. You can't convince me they're top 15. The only reason I say they should be at 14 is because I agree with moving Utah down. I agree that maybe USC is quite better. Maybe there's some teams to me, Miami, sorry, Mario Cristobal, you don't know how to finish a season. You just don't. You play terrible in conference play. You did it last year. I don't think we should reward Miami because they beat Notre Dame in week 1 and then lost games they should have won.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair. I think it's a very fair argument. Again, that's what people want to know about. And again, to me, if I'll say this for myself personally, for both sides. If you were asking me, will Notre Dame Miami play today? Who would you favor? I'd favor Notre Dame. If you ask me personally about that, but that's just the thing that's arguing with people. Now, I will agree. If you're
I
talking about with Utah, I do agree moving them down. They're a 10-2 team and they're good. But the last couple of weeks have been not their best performance in the world. You've cashed in on that in the last 2 weeks with the bets of the week, so
Yeah,
you understand that
and
more
I'll
than
say
anybody.
this: even if they had played great football, they should have. I just personally think I loved seeing them at 13 because they're Utah, and it's fun to see a school like Utah that high up. They
Right.
shouldn't have been one of these teams in one of these like edge college football playoff spots. They're not a college football playoff
Mhm.
team. That's the thing that makes me so mad about this. You look at Virginia, and sure, comparing the two rosters, are Virginia and Miami is my does Miami look better than Virginia on paper?
Oh, absolutely.
Sure. But
Yeah.
Virginia is playing for a chance to go to the college football playoff, and Miami's going to be sitting on their couch. And the committee, by putting them at 12, has made it clear, at least to me, that Miami's season, as far as the college football playoff is concerned, is done. 12, that's probably where you're going to be hanging at for the rest of the season. What I really hope is that BYU wins and they drop Notre Dame down to 12 and they move BYU to 11 and Miami or BYU to 10 and Miami to 11. So Miami gets what and everybody gets what they want. Miami's ranked
Yes.
over Notre Dame and they still don't go to the college football playoff because they don't deserve it. And that settles it. I'll take that. Again, if your argument is Notre Dame shouldn't be in the college football playoff, they shouldn't be ranked this high. I've been saying it since week 2. When we went 0-2, I said it. Notre Dame should be out of the top 25. But I don't think it's fair to say after the season Miami's had that they should be in the college football playoff. I don't think
Well,
that's
and
fair.
and the thing that hurts it was if there was going to be any week to do it to flip them back and like have Miami ahead of them, it was going to be this weekend because it's a common opponent pit. They beat Pittsburgh by more points than Notre Dame did. It would have been fair for the committee to go, you know what, common opponent. Now we'll put Miami ahead. But the fact that Notre Dame is still ahead of them, it tells you what the committee thinks, and I think we should leave it at that. Uh, let's talk about these other ones at the bottom because we had a lot of intrigue at the bottom of these rankings,
Yeah,
Austin.
we have again a lot of fun. I know I said I wasn't going to go on another rant, and then I did. But it wasn't really a rant. Because I don't want it to seem like
Right.
I don't value your point. I think your point is right, and I think
Oh,
people
absolutely.
have a right to be upset that Notre Dame is ranked this high. I said it in week 2 or week
Yeah.
3, whenever we play Texas A&M. We shouldn't be ranked. We shouldn't have stayed ranked. We should have had to work our way back up. We should be sitting in maybe just above 20, maybe in the top 15. I think that that's a fair argument to make. But saying that Miami should be sitting at 10 right now because they beat Notre Dame and then had a really sorry conference season, I just don't think is fair. But at 16, we've got USC. Again, fun. I've had fun with USC this year. It's been fun to see what Lincoln Riley can do there. And I'm kind of excited at what next year looks like for them.
Yes.
17, Virginia, fighting for college football playoff spot. Arizona gets to really bolster themselves up from 25 to 18. I thought this was a fun kind of propulsion of a team with all the new teams they knew they were going to be adding in the mix to kind of boost them up. I thought was fun. Michigan drops all the way down to 19. Just a tough loss to have, but again, a great season for them. And at 20, we had Tulane jump up 4 spots. And that's a blast to see. Really, here with these five, I don't see anything really to complain about that I haven't
No,
already said.
no, nothing really to complain about. And hey, I don't want to say we were exactly word for word right on Michigan, but if I remember correctly, in the preseason show, I said Michigan screams of a team that finishes the year 9-3, and we're talking about them being a big time contender next year. I think that is word for word
Yeah,
what was said on that preseason show. If I'm gonna go back and find that clip. I gotta know if I was at least getting one thing
yeah,
right this year. And I agree with you. I love what USC's done. And hey, in case y'all didn't pay attention to the recruiting rankings, USC's got the number one recruiting class in the country coming in. So they're getting more talent in from what is already building to be a big year. Like I said, I am keeping an eye on them. I mean, as crazy as the thing, you might look at them and go, that's a team that could win the Big Ten next year, like compete with Ohio State and those top
I
ones.
agree.
And I love getting Arizona moved up. And yeah, I like Tulane moving up as well. So no complaints here.
Now we're getting into some things that are maybe questionable. Houston moves up to 21. I guess that's what the people were asking for, is Houston to be at
Sure.
21. Georgia Tech moves up a spot to 22. Now, granted, I'll say this much. They played a close game against Georgia,
Right,
but
right.
I think everybody at home would have been okay if they fell to 25 or if they fell out of the rankings entirely. I like Georgia Tech. I like what they've done, but the last couple weeks of not winning football games, I think I'm all right to say you had your fun, Georgia Tech. But I do like them staying in the rankings at the same time. I just think moving up a spot after losing is an interesting choice. Iowa comes in at 23. Again, kind of like same feelings with Houston. Sure. I guess we're doing that. Just putting some teams in.
Sure. Why not? Why not?
Um, why not? That's why, again, I wish kind of the playoff would expand to 16, because then these spots down here would be teams that are actually competing. Because right now it's like, not that Houston or Iowa are bad, but like, and not that they don't deserve to be ranked either. But it's just kind of like, let's pick a team that's had a good year and just kind of throw them in here in the last couple rankings, just because
The
these
only
spots don't
reason
really
people
mean
look at
anything.
the end of the rankings now is to see what group of five teams are in there. That's the main reason for us watching 20 through 25. And obviously, you see that with the last two.
Yeah. So finally, again, personally, the team I think is the best team in the American,
Yes.
North Texas, finally gets ranked at 24. And again, another team we've been harping on for a while. Sure, if you only want to rank one American team, that's fine. But James Madison in the Sun
Mm-hmm.
Belt at 11-1, we've got to get this team in the rankings before right now at 25. But look, obviously, this sets a very interesting
Mm-hmm.
precedent. If Duke were to win and pretty much nothing were to change, James Madison wins, and obviously either Tulane or North Texas has to win. As it stands, those would be the teams getting in: the winner of Tulane and North Texas and James Madison. Again, I've already said it in my Miami rant. I think if Duke wins, great season for you, Duke. ACC's out.
Yeah.
I think that's the right thing to do. I don't think to make this. I think it would be a very bad precedent to state to be like, yeah, we're gonna stand with the Power Four
Oh
and we're gonna
boy,
put the
you don't
ACC
even want. I don't
champion.
even want to think about what would happen if that was the case there. Oh my gosh.
It would be the last time I think I've watched college football in my life if that
Yeah.
happened. If if they made that kind of stand, like I'm not watching the college football playoff. We're gonna put five loss Duke in
Right.
just because they play in the ACC.
Yeah,
Um,
and I want to add this in there. Obviously, again, like I said, it sets up that doomsday scenario. I did hear and one hypothetical scenario here that I know you're not going to be a fan of, but it's something that people have been talking about, and that be Josh Pate, future commissioner of college football. Shout out Josh Pate. He brought this up. Let's say the first one. Let's say Texas Tech handles business against BYU, and it's a lot like the first matchup they play. Then Duke beats Virginia. So, and it's very clear from these rankings, let's go ahead and say it, that if Duke loses, James Madison and the winner of the American are getting in for sure. So let's get that settled. So then it'll come down to that final at large spot, which at this point, if BYU's out, would be between Notre Dame and Miami. And some people have said, what if the committee's sitting there thinking, we got to get at least one ACC team in here. We got to get at least one. And then that's when they flip Miami over Notre Dame. I don't know if they would do that. I don't think they would, but it's a scenario people are throwing around. And I'm like, oh, that's going to piss some people off. Regardless, no matter what, if you keep Notre Dame
Look,
there, that'll piss people off. If you put Miami over them, that's going to piss some more people off, no matter what
I'm
in
gonna
that scenario.
I'm gonna say this much: if it comes down to it, and BYU loses, and the argument is Notre Dame and Miami, put Texas in. I want Texas in. I'm Sark. I'm with you. If BYU loses, I'm Texas's biggest fan. Again, put Miami ahead of Notre Dame all you want. I don't care. But Miami is not a college football playoff team.
Oh,
And thinking we have to have an ACC team, if that's a real Hunter, your check, I will find where I won't say that because that's going to
can
be a
I?
real.
Oh no, I was about to say. I was just about to be like, can I join you? That's what I was just
Yeah.
about to say. I was like, can I join you? I have a more personal matter to score
Yeah.
with him than other stuff. Than this. I have personal matters besides that.
I would be, I'll say it. I would be upset that he's gone on this anti-Miami campaign pretty much since his first day as the commissioner of the college football playoff. And for him to just be like, you know what, psych. That would kind
I,
of be that
I
would be
I
a
don't. Again, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a scenario some people are
I
throwing around
actually
with
think that's a
that.
really good point. And that's something I didn't think about. Um, but I
But let
think
me
that
let me this. If BYU beats Texas Tech, we're not having any of these discussions.
no,
Let's
no,
just leave it at that.
the conversation doesn't happen because BYU is going to get in. Clearly they like BYU better than Miami.
Right.
I'll say this, and of course, I'm saying it for nobody at the college football playoff committee listens to this.
No, I'm gonna send this clip to the college football
Send it to
playoff committee
Hunter.
after this.
Yeah, send it to the college football playoff committee. They need to hear this. When you are making rankings, in my opinion, you're making rankings as if the college football playoff was going to start. This is where the teams would be. That's my personal understanding of how this should go. So to me, if you like Miami more than Notre Dame, whether that's right or wrong, I'm just going to push past that part of my argument because I don't care anymore.
Right.
Whether it's right or wrong, if neither of them play next week, then in my opinion, what you're saying is you like Notre Dame more than Miami because there's nothing else that can change your mind because
I
neither of them play next week.
exactly.
That would be my point. Now, again, the college football playoff, they can do some crazy things. And I wouldn't be surprised if those dirty dogs at the ACC don't try to have something to do with it. They already talked about changing their tiebreaker after Duke got in the
Yeah, I did
conversation,
hear about that. I did hear
which
about that.
I think is sketchy. I also think Duke might be low-key getting threatened under the table to lose this game. Of course, that's a heavy accusation to make. Allegedly, I'm not gonna say allegedly because I haven't heard anybody say that they will. But I
Hey,
would
I'll
not.
say this: 2020, Ohio, the Big Ten switched the rules for the Big Ten championship so that they could allow their bigger teams to get in. Ohio State being that, so it's not the craziest argument I have ever heard for that. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say never heard that before. When Ohio State literally did that in 2020, obviously different circumstances then, but
I'm just gonna say this: Duke and Virginia should be a good game. If Virginia comes out and Duke is just playing terrible, I'm gonna right away call. I'm calling foul play. I'm saying the ACC has made some kind of threat to Duke. Look, I think this could be a huge issue for the ACC. Not that I think they should, but if I was them, I'd tell them beg Virginia to sit out of this game or something, or try and get Duke to throw this game, because I think there could be serious repercussions in a world where you've already had teams like Florida State and Clemson kind of dipping their toes into this realignment waters. What happens to those bigger talents in the ACC if the ACC is left out entirely of the college
right.
football team? I mean, how is the SEC not calling phones of Miami uh, Clemson, Florida State, and saying, "Hey, how would you like to be in the conference that gets a billion teams into the college
Right.
football playoff?" Um, but it's been an interesting top 25. Um, and we really talked about that. That brought out a lot more in me and you than I thought it was going to. I'll be completely honest. Um,
I love it.
but look,
Sign me up for this. My God, this is what college football does to the
I
psyche of people. How could you not love this? How could you
I
not?
know I'm like getting lightheaded, like I'm about to pass out. And it's not that it really isn't that deep because look, I'll agree with people. Notre Dame's probably not a college football playoff team. They just happen to have the best running back in football playing on their team, which is a huge plus. Also, would you rather watch Carson Beck playing I'm getting off on a tangent. Would you rather watch Carson Beck playing the college football playoff or Jeremiah Love? I think Heisman voters would rather see Jeremiah Love.
Heisman voters are like, you know what? Heisman votes should have a say in this
Also,
result.
Jeremiah Love has autism. So for autism, let's stand with Jeremiah Love and get Notre Dame in the college football playoff. And that's real. I'm not making that up. He really does. So I stand
Oh
with
my
Jeremiah
gosh.
Love.
Oh my
Let's get some
gosh.
representation in the college football playoff. And that's coming from two people who do have autism. Let's stand with that,
Oh
right?
boy. Yeah. I
Let's
mean, my
stand with our
gosh.
let's stand with our brother in arms, right? Jeremiah Love. I think that's to stand the Bull Take podcast is
Oh,
diversity in the college
dude, I'm
football.
I'm literally crying right now from like this last like five. I'm literally crying up here. Oh my gosh.
We have
We
been on here
oh
too
my
long,
gosh.
and now we have to pick every conference championship game
Oh gosh.
in
Okay, let's get
case
these
we
comments. Let's get
got.
them in then.
So let's get to our game. There are again, like last week, there are no game previews. I throw all the rules out the door. It's strictly game picks. And let's start in Conference USA. Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State. This is Conference USA, right? I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
this is Conference USA.
Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, squaring off. I've seen a crazy doomsday scenario.
I've
Speaking
heard
of
of
that,
this one. I know the one you're referring to. I've heard of this one.
Duke wins and James Madison loses, and Kennesaw State wins and they get into the college football playoff.
If I'm sitting here and that happens, and I'm sitting there on Selection Sunday and I'm taking a drink and I see the Kennesaw logo, I'm gonna spit my drink across the room. I'll probably almost like choke on my water. Be like, there's no way I just saw Kennesaw State pop up on the screen. There's no way. But I'll go and get my
Um,
pick out of the way. I'm going to take Kennesaw State. They've been an awesome turnaround this year in their conference. After a first year in Division One where they kind of struggled, it's been a great turnaround in year two. Um, so I'm going to pick Kennesaw State to get the win. Why not? Who gives a hoot? The Owls do.
Look, I'd love to see this doomsday scenario now that I just remembered it seeing Kennesaw State, but I picked Jacksonville State to win this conference, I believe. I picked them to go to the conference championship at least. So I'm going to ride with that awesome preseason prediction that came from my mouth, and I spoke it into
Ladies and
existence.
gentlemen, do not look at my preseason Conference USA
Yeah.
predictions. Do not do it. I had a 4-8 team and a 2-10 team facing off in that conference championship.
All hail the one Gamecocks I was right about this season, Jacksonville State. Let's go, baby. That's my pick. I think it's going to be a blast. I think, well, you know what? I'll just preface it by saying I think all of these games are going to be fun to watch.
Oh,
That way I
absolutely.
don't say it for every single game like I will eventually end up saying. Then we've got a great matchup in the Sun Belt. Troy, who I believe was in the Sun Belt Championship last year or maybe 2 years ago,
They've been in it
versus
the last couple because that's where John Summerall was before Tulane. They've been there the last couple of years.
James Madison versus Troy, squaring off. It's going to be a fun game, even though I just said it. Going to be a blast. Who do you got winning this game? In Harrisburg, home of the Dukes.
Yeah. Again, I'm happy there is still a possible scenario for James Madison because we worked our tails off selling you people on the East Carolina scenario. We
No
worked
kidding.
our tails off coming with that scenario. So I'm going
I'm
to pick
glad
the
it didn't
Dukes.
come
Why
to
not
that.
get them Dukes in the playoff? Let's get the Duke, the James Madison Dukes in the college football playoff. I say they handle business against Troy.
I like that. I think James Madison's the better team anyway. I think they'd win this game anyway. But you'll notice with my game picks here in two of these games, I will be picking for the James Madison and American champion scenario. So that because that is what I'm going to be honed in on. So I've never loved Duke football more in my life than I do
Yeah,
this
yeah.
Saturday. Just so we're all clear. Um, Next, we got the American Championship. North Texas, Tulane in New Orleans, squaring off. Who do you got?
Man, this is going to be rainy conditions at Tulane Stadium. Plus, I just love they put this on ABC on Friday night. They're like, let's get these teams nationally televised, get the recognition they deserve in front of this nationwide audience. Take the over. Oh my gosh, take the crap out of the over. This is going to be a high scoring affair. And I'm be honest with you, I'm picking the team that I think has the better quarterback play this year. And as crazy as that was entering the year, it would have been Jake Retzlaff because he came over. But Drew Mestamaker has been one of the best stories in all college football this year. Give me North Texas for Joe Green, the mean green, our college football playoff bound.
I love it. Tear in my eye. I just went back to look at my preseason predictions here because I just have the notes and I pulled it up. I did have Jacksonville State in the conference championship, but I had Western Kentucky winning it. I'm still riding on
Oh,
Jacksonville State, not changing my answer by any means, but I was this close.
hey,
Um,
I'll go ahead and tell you, for those of you who didn't know, my prediction was Liberty versus UTEP. I had UTEP making it. UTEP finished the year 2-10, ladies and gentlemen. Just no.
I
And
need to
then my
stop.
Sun Belt one was completely off too. I had Texas State and Georgia Southern in my Sun Belt championship, so I was way off.
I am I'm looking at this and I don't want to look at it anymore because this is not good.
Yeah, I did another show
Southern
earlier where we like looked through each one. My God, it made me just want to do this the whole time. I didn't want to look at any of it.
Southern Miss was my Sun Belt champ. So shout out to Southern Miss. I was not wrong. I think I wasn't
They were
wrong.
close. If they had beaten Troy last week, they would have been playing James Madison instead of the Troy Trojans. They were so close.
So close, but they didn't make it. My logic was kind of bulletproof, though, to be honest. But in this game, in the American, I've been saying it for the last few weeks. I like Tulane, and I know the rest of the country likes Tulane. They think they're the cream of the crop in the group of five right now. I think they're good too. I don't think they're better than North Texas.
Hmm.
North Texas is the best team in the American. Mean Green, I'm going for them. North Texas, college football playoff.
Yeah.
Bang.
Get this electric offense in the playoff so people can be like, yeah, you're getting that at Oklahoma State next year, baby. My American champion, I had South Florida and Memphis. I tried my hardest for you, Alex Golish. I
Yeah.
cheered my butt off this year for you. I want to be known.
I had Memphis. I don't remember. I don't have listed here who they were playing, but I have Memphis
Okay. All
winning
right.
the American. Um, darn. This is the only game that I stand to be right in, and I think I will be. UNLV, Boise State, squaring off, 7 o'clock on Fox. I think this is the game that we all thought was going to be played in the conference championship, but I think everybody on earth thought this game was going to have way higher stakes.
Oh, yeah. If you would have told people UNLV, Boise State face on, it's like, all right, who's going to the playoff in this game? That's what we all would have thought. I had UNLV winning the Mountain West in the preseason. So I got to ride with Dan Mullen and my guys in the preseason picks here. I got to go with UNLV, even though Boise State whooped their butts a couple weeks ago in Boise. I think it maybe could be a different outcome this time. Get it done, Dan. Win it for them running Rebels.
Just like you, I had UNLV winning this game in the preseason. I'm going to ride with that. I like UNLV here. What's crazy to say about this game is not just that this game has, for the most part, no college football playoff stakes. I don't know what crazy situation might have to unfold for the winner of this game to get in. But
Right.
the fact that two group of five schools will be getting it could potentially get in here, and UNLV versus Boise State, that game is not deciding either of those is even
Wild.
crazier. Because I know after what happened last year, everybody had their eyes on this conference and who might be representing the group of five in the college football playoff. And that didn't happen. But two UNLVs here, 11 a.m. on Saturday. I personally don't think you should be allowed to play conference championship games at 11 a.m. I
Make them
know,
all prime time. I want them all starting at 7 o'clock at the same time.
I
Get them on
know.
there.
Like, let's have some fun. At least look, there's only one game at 3 o'clock. Can we put these other two games in the
Right.
afternoon?
Right.
I don't get it. But we've got BYU squaring off against Texas Tech, the rematch of all rematches. BYU wins. It kind of settles a lot of conversations about the college football playoff. If BYU loses like they did in the regular season, boy, oh boy, we're going to have some interesting, like you said, there are going to be some interesting scenarios we might see unfold.
Yes, we do. And I don't. Again, I'm going to pick Texas Tech in this game. Fun fact: I believed in Kenny Dillingham in Arizona State in the preseason. That was who I believed in the preseason there. But I think I think Texas Tech will win. But I just think this whole week, Austin, of Kalani Sitake rumors to Penn State, and then him coming out and saying to his team, "I'm staying here. I'm not going anywhere." Signs the extension. Maybe that does something to the psyche of BYU to start this game. Maybe they come out, give Texas Tech a pop in the face, or you'd be like, "Whoa, okay, we weren't expecting that." But at the end of the day, I think Texas Tech is the better team, and they will win this game still.
This is a tough situation for me as a Notre Dame fan because if anybody's going to send us out of the college football playoff, I'd like it to be a team that deserves to be in and a team I think you can definitely make the argument is better. But that involves BYU winning this game. I lean Texas Tech, though, and also I'd rather Notre Dame just make the college football playoff, which on paper right now, of course, barring any major shakeups, if BYU were to lose, Notre Dame theoretically would hold on to the number 10 spot. Of course, they're a world of infinite possibilities, and who knows what's going on in the wonderful mind of Hunter Yurchek in all of this. So who knows where he's leaning? Like you said, and like I said, you figure teams would kind of be more settled week in and week out. But of course, I say that about the Notre Dame Miami situation, and just just this past rankings, they made like a crazy wild flip of Notre Dame and Alabama in a situation where it didn't really make any sense to me. So yeah, anything can happen. I'm gonna rule Notre Dame out of this entirely. I think Texas Tech will probably win this game. They won in the regular season. This game is in Arlington, practically a home game for Texas Tech compared to BYU. I think BYU will keep it close. Like you said, I think they'll be fired up, but I just think Texas Tech will get the job done. Then we got the MAC championship. And we've got a MAC championship staple, Miami of Ohio, back in the championship. But this year, facing off against Western Michigan, who like every 7 years has a good year. So 8-4 versus 7-5, played on Ford Field. It's going to be an awesome clash. Who do you got in this one?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, I want to have a chance to get a preseason prediction, right? And I had the Miami, Ohio winning this conference in the preseason. So I got to go with the home of former Steeler quarterback Ben Roethlisberger and the Miami, Ohio Red Hawks to win the MAC this year. Western Michigan's been a fun surprise, but I got to go with my guys that I picked in the preseason.
I had Toledo, Miami in the preseason, but I had Toledo winning this game. I'm going to go with Western Michigan to bring my preseason prediction halfway right that Miami of Ohio will lose the conference championship game.
I respect it. I respect it.
I'm going to stand by that pick. I will at least be half right about it. And let's go Mustangs. No, Broncos. Sorry. Then we've got the Clash in Atlanta, SEC Championship, Alabama, Georgia, another rematch between the two squads, 3 versus 9. Interesting conversations to be had. I think even though Alabama moved a bunch ahead of Notre Dame, and kind of the same way of the weird flip-flops around, I think Alabama's in. I think the move to 9 says that they're in. But I don't know. With how crazy things are, if I was Alabama, I wouldn't exactly feel settled losing the SEC championship.
Right, right. I think they'll be coming into this saying, hey, let's put this debate to bed for good. Let's come out here and let's win this thing so we don't even have to have that thought enter in the back of our minds that we could get out. And that's possible. And I could not believe looking back at it because I didn't remember this off the top of my head, probably because they lost to Florida State in week one. I look back at my preseason. I was so high on Alabama in the preseason. Like it was ridiculous how high I was on them. I had them making the national championship in the preseason. I had them win the SEC. I'll be honest with you though, if I'm not being biased here, I think Georgia's the better team right now in the matchups. So for that reason, I'm going to pick the Georgia Bulldogs to win this matchup in Atlanta to win this one. Again, I think they're the better team. I think they're the healthier team in the matchup out of the two teams. These two teams are beat up so bad. If one of these teams can get the bye, it really might be the difference between losing in the first round or winning the national championship this year.
Yeah. Come Saturday at 3 o'clock, if I'm Kalen DeBoer and BYU wins the Big 12 championship, I would go into the locker room and tell my team, we are out of the college football playoff if we do not win tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think that's right. I think the move to 9 pretty clearly signified who's going to go out if BYU wins. I think that's why the move was made, in my personal opinion.
Right.
Um, but the Tide don't know that. Your players don't know that. Your players don't know what the playoff committee's thinking. Nobody does. So I'd go in there and say, you want to win this game? I'd put extra stakes on it. If we do not win this game, we are out of the college football playoff. I think that's a fair thing to tell your team. Get them fired up. You know, Kirby Smart's always making up bulletin board
Oh yeah.
material. And I think this one could be at least half true. You will be a 10-3 team if you lose this game. Um, I think the guys get fired up. I think it'll be a close game, but I'm with you. I think Georgia's probably the better team in this one. I'm going to take the Bulldogs to win the SEC championship, reign supreme again in the conference. Um, and that takes us into the ACC championship. And I'm not even going to say too much about it. I think it's going to be a fun game. I'm going to have a blast watching it. I think these two teams will play close. Um, but I'm picking Duke. I want chaos. I yearn for it. I need to see two group of five teams in this. I am taking Duke to win this game.
Yeah. If you ask me, 7 p.m., you got that one, you got the ACC championship, and you got number one versus number two in the Big Ten. You're like, which one do you think you're going to be glued more to? I'm going to be like, well, obviously, it's the ACC championship with all the chaos scenarios there. I'm with you. Screw any of this. I think Virginia's a better team. I know they beat Duke by like 17 points like a couple weeks ago. Different stakes on the line with a conference championship. Give me the chaos scenario. Give me the Duke Blue Devils to win the ACC here.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Let's go Duke. And Big Ten championship 1 versus 2. They're in either way. Do you really even need to watch this game? I'd say actually yes,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
probably going to be a fun game to watch. Um, but Ohio State, Indiana squaring off. If this was a year ago and Indiana had made the Big Ten championship with like their one loss or whatever, and we saw these two teams play last season, actually, right? That was the
right.
one loss.
Yeah.
Was Ohio State. You'd think, Indiana's played some good games, but against the best, they're just not there. That's been a different story this season for Indiana. To me, this is not just a cakewalk for Ohio State, even though they played so well this season.
No, I don't think so either. Again, I think this is an Indiana team that's far better. And yeah, why this game matters. The loser of this game could fall down to that 5 seed. The loser could not be getting a bye to get healthy and get ready to go. They might have to get ready to go from the jump and go play. So absolutely, this game matters. Who gets the 1 seed? And really, if you think about it, it's all it comes down to is Ohio State's got to score 17 points. If Ohio State scores 17 points based on this year, you think they got it. Jeez Louise, I have a massive plane flying over the top of my house right now. It's so freaking loud. Oh my gosh, that just scared the crap out of me. Um, but in this game overall, I think it's fair to pick Ohio State, but it comes down to who I want to get that 1 seed. And I want it to be the Indiana freaking Hoosiers. Kurt Signetti gets that 1 seed and gets a Big Ten title on Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm gonna partially embrace it here. and a Ryan Day hater, I'm sure that's nothing I need to say if you've listened to the show for any meaningful time. I don't want to see Ryan Day win the Big Ten personally. Um, it didn't stop Ohio State last year, so like
No.
whatever, good for them. It didn't stop them last year, and they got to go to the college football playoff and win the national championship. So it doesn't mean anything really for Ohio State if they don't win this. They've had to do the whole gauntlet of the college football playoff, and they came out on top. Um, but like you said, if you can just score 17 points, but this is going to be the offense to test
Yes.
how great that defense has been. Sure, we thought Texas was going to be great, but they had a slow start to the season, and we've seen all these different things. But this has been an Indiana offense that just does
Hmm.
not quit. They have put a hurting on everybody. I think whoever wins this game, it won't be a blowout. I think both teams are talented enough to keep close with each other, hang with each other. I I am going to go Indiana here, not because I think they're the better team, but because I think this offense is going to be such a shock to this defense. It's going to be the toughest offense they played. It could surprise them. And then I could see maybe a rematch in the college football playoff where Ohio State, now knowing what they're working against and facing,
Mm,
could maybe favor and
mm.
have an advantage. But I think this game, this offense could really stun this Ohio State defense and get going and win this game. So I'm going to ride with the Indiana Hoosiers here.
I like it. I like it.
That takes us into our final segment here. Bet of the week. What's your bet of the week for conference championship week?
Oh man, so many good options across the board here. Texas A&M -2.5. You failed me terribly last week. Don't remind me. This week, I haven't done something in a while. Give me an over bet. I'm going over 47.5 in James Madison versus Troy. I think in this one, that's such a low total, I think, with it, that James Madison will probably score 30 something points by itself. So you're telling me I got to rely on Troy to give me 10, maybe like 17 points somewhere in there? I feel confident in that. Give me James Madison, Troy over 47.5 for my bet of the week.
I'm leaning with you here. Two awesome high-powered offenses. I'm taking the over in BYU Texas Tech. Over
Woo!
and a half. You think these two teams are going to stop at 50 points?
Mm.
No, sir. I think these teams are going to be lighting up the scoreboard in this one. I'd take the over 49 and a half in the Big 12 championship.
Love to see it.
But all that being said, that's going to do it for us here at the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Wader. Or, no, I'm not. I'm
Wait a
Austin
minute.
Hill.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Who am I? Wait a minute. Hold on. uh,
That is Austin Wader.
yeah.
And thank you for listening to all the mad ramblings. This episode went on way longer than I thought it was going to. But thank you for listening. We'll see you.